2023 seen a lot of our old heroes from the 80s and 90s come back and kind of resurge as action stars with some movies that are pretty good. So let's talk about James Bond. Fast Charlie was directed by Philip Noyce and stars Pierce Brosnan, James Caan, and Morgan Freeman, and tells the story of a hitman in the South who is an enforcer and very good at his job. But when another set of villains begins a feud against his old team, he sets out on a path of revenge, which will see corruption, violence, and action. Fast Charlie is a pretty straightforward movie. It's pretty much just Pierce Brosnan is good at his job, some people want to stop him, and we're going to get action along the way. And movies with premises like this tend to go one of two ways. Either they're pretty much ass, or they are just really good because of their simple premise. John Wick is a good example of just a simple premise which worked so well because of the execution and the planning and the work and the creativity that was put into it. And with Fast Charlie, you kind of get that same vibe and that same potential and that same outcome because you have Pierce Brosnan in your lead role, who's a very reliable actor in that he sells an action scene. He really has some chops on him for acting. He can give you a performance which is damn near good, and he's always going to be someone who's going to turn 100%. Also, Pierce Brosnan is someone who, even though he's getting up there in age, I think he's like 71 now, is in fantastic shape. Like, in this movie, he's doing a lot of stuff that an older guy, you're like, good job on you. You're actually really going out there and kicking some butt. There's some stuntmen, I'm sure, thrown in the mix here, but with such a low budget, I doubt they had so much of that. And plus, considering a lot of the action scenes are more tailor-made for him, they really help to sell him as the actual actor, which is something I really like. Directors don't do this enough, or stunt coordinators, where they make a movie so that it helps their star. This movie really does. It helps Pierce Brosnan, but it also gives a look into a guy who is getting up there a little bit. He's a little older, and Pierce Brosnan's performance is a lot of fun to watch. It's a mixture of cold, but entertainingly comedic at times, and he balanced that line perfectly, and he's generally not lost a step. We all know Pierce Brosnan can play this role. He does do like a southern accent here, which was kind of strange to hear, but for the most part, I can get over it. You know, it's like I accept the fact that he's doing the accent because we all know he's not actually southern, but still, very good stuff. Honestly, the movie itself, like I said, the simple premise works because you just get to see different setups. Essentially, this movie is about 8 different major action scenes, and they're just divided up with a through line through it, which is perfect, and all I really want from an action movie. This movie doesn't try to be too much. It knows what it is. It knows what it's worth. And if you know that going in, it's a lot of fun. There are some very entertaining action scenes in here, and actually quite a few creative moments and some very brilliant kills. Also, I like how smart Charlie is in here. He's the guy who knows his stuff, he knows his business, he knows his shit, and I appreciate that. They really made him a guy where you're like, okay, this dude's competent. I can see how he's doing this, but he doesn't seem over the top at any point. Still keeps it at a grounded level that feels almost like a harkening back to like those 90s action movies. This movie's pretty fun. That's the main thing I loved about it. I had fun watching this action movie, and there are definitely parts that get a little tense and exciting, but for the most part, you're just enjoying yourself. I will say there's some cliches in here. That's one of the negatives. There are parts where you're like, I can see that coming, or the character that just has like no personality, but they have the niche, you know, they're like the person, I'm the guy with the knife, things like that. And there's some cheesy, hammy dialogue in here, but it really works. I like the tone they have in here, and I like the way everything feels. It's got a good story through it, and I like that they feel like they try to establish and flesh out many of what's going on here, including the characters. It works out pretty well. It doesn't try to go too stylish. It knows what it's worth, and I appreciate that more than anything. So I had a fun time with Fast Charlie. I think this is a fun turn-on while you're bored on a Friday action movie. It's definitely something I would check out if it comes to stream. Not necessarily have to go out your way through to see in theaters, but if you're there, might as well check it out. It's a fun romp. It gives some really good action in there, and Pierce Brosnan delivers a very strong performance, which I really was loving, and I think it's a movie that we don't get enough of anymore, which is the simple B-rate action movie. I'm going to give Fast Charlie a 7 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you all next time.